Mr. Ramanan is the Mission Director of Atal Innovation Mission, NITI Aayog, Government of India. This is a very important innovation initiative for the nation and launched by our Prime Minister and the Government of India. And I know almost for about 3 months I've been on this group. Almost every day he has 3 or 4 meetings. I don't know how he keeps his zeal and enthusiasm. And he has been relentlessly focused on establishing and promoting a vibrant culture for innovation and entrepreneurship across our country. As a mission director mission, Mr. Ramanan has been instrumental in the launch of 10,000 plus tinkering labs, Atal tinkering labs nationwide across the schools, over 100 plus incubation centers established across universities and industry, this being one of them. And he has also built a largest mentorship network, over 10,000 mentors that are ready at a click of a button to inspire, mentor, coach students and startups from across the tinkering labs and the incubators. Mr. Ramanan is also a very seasoned business executive. Before this, he was the managing director, CEO of CMC Limited, a subsidiary of Tata Consultancy Services. Sir, now I request you to launch this. Please click on the button. Thank you, sir. So, thank you, sir. We now request you to deliver the inaugural address.
Thank you, Dr. Kumar. Respected Vice Chancellor, respected Registrar of Anna University, respected CEO of the AIC, Mr. Nagarajan, Mr. Somasekaran, Mr. Muralidharan, as well as all the other distinguished people in the audience who have logged on from different parts of the world. This is indeed not only a pleasure but always a privilege for me to be able to inaugurate yet another Atal incubation center. And before I start, I do hope that every one of you who is logged on to this call is hale and healthy and following the safeguards advocated by your institution, by your state government or by your health authorities, because in these difficult times, it is important for us to be able to observe that. As Mr. Kumar mentioned, what we are looking for through Atal Innovation Mission, which was established a couple of years ago and which has accelerated in its implementation purely because of tremendous support we have got not only from the government but also from various private sector players, from different stakeholders in academia, industry, government, as well as from the MSME industry and NGOs. The purpose has been, how do you in India, a country with 1.3 billion people, with more than 1.4 million schools, with 10,500 engineering and related institutions, with 39,000 colleges, 150 million young students entering into the workplace over the next 5 to 10 years. How do you convert this demographic dividend, which is the envy of many a country, and which is also a pillar that has been identified by the Honorable Prime Minister in his clarion call of Atmanirbhar Bharat? How do you take this demographic dividend and transform this country from a land of just or a nation of just job seekers into a nation of job creators? After all, Indians have excelled everywhere they have gone. We have never lacked for great innovators, great thinkers, great engineers, great scientists, great doctors, great philosophers, great artists. Take any aspect of Indian life, intellectual capability or physical prowess, India has excelled and Indians have excelled whenever there is an ecosystem available to them to be able to realize their full potential. And therefore, it has not been surprising that we have a Satya Nadella in Microsoft, heading Microsoft, a Sundar Pichai heading Google, a Shantanu Narayan heading Adobe, and several distinguished Indians heading various universities, various hospitals in the United States, in advanced economies all around the world. How do we ensure that we create the same ecosystem of innovation and entrepreneurship in India, which is going to bloom 1,000 Nadellas, 1,000 Sundar Pichais, because that is the need of a 1.3 billion people. We are still a country. We are one of the fastest growing economies of the world, growing at 6 to 8%. We are having the demographic dividend that I mentioned about. And we are living in a world where technology is reshaping the world. Every one of us is experiencing a different world because of technology, and the world is experiencing a different you because of technology. Technology has become affordable, accessible, available, and advanced. How do you leverage the convergence of all these three aspects, a fast-growing economy, a demographic dividend, and affordable, accessible, and available technology to the benefit of our country? How do we create a country, a nation of job creators instead of just job seekers? And it is with that explicit purpose that the Atal Innovation Mission was formed. Number one, to create a culture of innovation, vibrant innovation across the country in our young students. 150 million young students are entering into the workplace. Anna University itself, which was set up in 1968, they have been at the forefront of education. They have been at the forefront. You have more than 593 colleges, affiliated colleges spread across the southern part of our country. You have 3 regional campuses. You have more than 16,000 students graduating from your universities. You have over 7 lakh students graduating from all your affiliated colleges. How do we ensure that we do justice to the enormous innovative talent that exists in these young students to be able to flower and blossom to their full potential? And that is why we first of all, we need to create a culture of innovation, a culture of problem solving, an innovative mindset in our young students, in schools, in universities, and even in the industry. I would say I am from the industry. I have been in TCS since 1981. And I have to say that if you look at the industry, innovation is still a recent word. The word innovation has yet to percolate and permeate internals of an industry as well as the universities. And therefore, it is very important, and therefore we have been launching thousands of Atal tinkering labs at school level between grade 6 to grade 12, so that young school students are getting exposed to the latest of technologies like 3D printers, robotics, IoT devices, miniaturized electronics, augmented virtual reality. They tinker with them, they play with them. They are not being judged by the marks you get, but they are being judged by the innovative quotient, the creativity that they are able to unleash by leveraging all these technologies to solve problems in and around the communities they live in. And therefore, we have launched more than 5,000 tinkering labs. As was mentioned, more than 14,000 schools have already been selected, and the remaining schools will be operationalized during the course of the year. Already 2.5 million young students from schools who are going to be entering into your university, the Anna University and various affiliated colleges, are being exposed and are being internalized to innovation, problem solving. So when these students come into a university like yours, it is very important for us to have world-class incubators. Any world-class university should have a world-class incubator. The incubator allows the innovative talent of the young student in your school, from the school coming to your university and graduating from your university, or having graduated from your university, gone to an industry. It allows them to foster a startup, a world-class startup. And the whole idea is, how does India become the most innovative nation of the world? Through world-class startups. We already have 30,000 startups in our country, but we need to ensure that these startups succeed. The success rate of a startup is directly dependent upon the initial support that is given during the various valleys of death, as they call, in a startup's life cycle. Valleys of death, because a great idea does not germinate into a great product and does not crystallize into a great company, because they need support at different times, whether it is mentoring support, whether it is venture capital support, whether it is business planning and strategy support, whether it is HR support, or whether it is areas of support related to access to the market. So these are all areas where an incubator, by setting up a world-class incubator like how we are doing in Anna University, is going to enable that fledgling startup to be able to stand on their own legs and be launched successfully into the world outside. We want world-class startups. We are, after all, a country with 1.3 billion people, but with a million challenges. How do we convert those million challenges into million entrepreneurial opportunities? That is the big opportunity available to us in our country. And that is why the Honorable Prime Minister, in his clarion call, identified the 5 pillars which are directly related to what the incubator is supposed to do. The first pillar is the demographic dividend, which we talked about. The incubator enables young, talented students with the passion and the commitment and the ideas to be able to make an impact, gives them a home for them to be able to unleash their innovation and become a successful startup. The second pillar is a pillar of infrastructure. We need to create not only the physical infrastructure, we have 715 districts in our country. We have more than 4,000 towns and cities. We have identified amongst them only about 100 or 110 smart cities. However, as the COVID-19 crisis has revealed, if you are not able to address the urban migration problem of everybody trying to flock to 8 metro cities of our country, it is not a sustainable solution for an Atmanirbhar Bharat that the Honorable Prime Minister is talking about. We need to create thousands of hubs of innovation and job creation. We need, therefore, the focus on physical infrastructure, not only on the physical infrastructure, but also on the digital infrastructure. We need to build the digital highways which will enable any student from any university or any small town, be it a hilly district, a coastal district, a tribal district. They should have access to technology, they should have access to basic healthcare, they should have access to education, they should have access to job enablement and job creation, they should have access to livelihoods and to entrepreneurship. And therefore, it is important for us to set up world-class incubators who will create world-class startups, and these world-class startups will be spread across the country. Atal Innovation Mission has launched over 100 incubators with 70 of them operational and more than 1,500 startups that have come up in the last 2 years. Now that shows the power of the student, the innovative capability of the student. Give them the opportunity, give them the exposure, give them the access, empower them with tools, empower them with technology, and empower them with facilities which can be shared on a common basis. And then lo and behold, you have a startup springing and blossoming and becoming into a successful company. It has also been very heartening for me to note, and I hope that is also the case in Atal Incubator at Anna University, that more than 549 of the 1,500 startups that have sprung up from the Atal Innovation Mission are women-led startups. We have 3 women-led incubators. It is very important for when we have a country of more than 50% or almost 50% women population and the girl child, it's very important that we have an entrepreneurial zeal and an enablement of young women and young girl children to be able to capitalize on the opportunities that this country affords and is enabling. We have only 13% entrepreneurs as women entrepreneurs in our country. Now that's a small number. That means more than 87% of our entrepreneurs are men entrepreneurs. How do we change from a 13% women entrepreneurship to a 50% women entrepreneurship? And that is also one of the objectives of the Atal Innovation Mission, to be inclusive in nature, to enable entrepreneurship irrespective of diversity, irrespective of gender, irrespective of the location where the incubator can be located, irrespective of the areas of focus. We need many areas of focus. You are already involved in many. You need smart agriculture. 44% of our country is an agri-economy based country. How do you take this 44% of agri-economy base and bringing concepts like precision agriculture through IoT technologies, through communication technologies, through weather sensing technologies, through robotics and automation? How do we ensure that we raise the productivity not only of our farms but also of the farmer? How do we ensure that the 22% of our country which is below the poverty line gets eliminated from poverty? We have 715 districts, out of which 115 districts are aspirational districts. How do we ensure that these aspirational districts, which have 1 in 3 infant mortality, 1 in 5 maternal mortality, 1 in 4 infant stunting, how do we ensure that they have access to quality healthcare, quality education, affordable housing, clean drinking water, sanitation, and waste management? Every one of this is a challenge, but an opportunity for the entrepreneur, the budding entrepreneur. And I am glad to see that Anna University's focus includes societal good. You are ensuring not only that you leverage technology, advancing technology for commercial startups, but also that you would leverage innovation for social good. Because that is the third pillar that the Honorable Prime Minister mentioned, the pillar of technology. Technology, like I said, is changing the shape of the world, but more importantly, every innovation has the opportunity to leverage technology to reach the farthest end of the world. You can be in a tribal district, you could be in Sikkim, or you could be in Salem, and you could be tapping the world market and addressing opportunities in Seattle or in San Francisco. That is the opportunity that internet, the worldwide internet, the technology is enabling today. So it is important for an incubator to be able to facilitate such growth of innovation, not only for the commercially oriented people, but also for societal good, because unless we bridge the digital divide and the economic divide, the divide between the haves and the have-nots, we will not be able to do justice to our population and to the world. For any solution that we develop for 1.3 billion people in our country is also a solution for 7 billion people in the planet. And that brings us to the fourth pillar that he talked about, and which is the pillar of demand. Too often we have looked to foreign shores to be able to export our products. Our ITS industry has been a wonderful example of a $180 billion industry that has grown in the last 15 to 20 years, servicing the external world. But how do we now tap the demand, that is the 1.3 billion people demand, the local market, in order to be able to grow our startups? We don't need to look elsewhere. Actually, the rest of the world is looking at India in order to service this market. So how is it that we can enable our young companies, our job creators, our entrepreneurs, our startups to tap this market? And that is where the incubator again plays a very important role in being able to provide access to the market, able to provide awareness of the opportunities and its ability to be able to empower them with the necessary networks and collaborations that is required in order to succeed. And finally, the pillar of social good, socio-economic progress. India can progress only when you have both economic progress as well as social progress. Our vision has to embrace societal good as much as it does economic good. And therefore, there is a tremendous opportunity for social innovation. Now, the Atal Innovation Mission has been launching and has launched already more than 26 Atal Community Innovation Centers across the country. These are in tier 2, tier 3 cities in rural, unserved, underserved regions of our country, so that you can stimulate innovation in our local communities, whether it is in Goa. For example, if you take a place like Goa, you need to foster community innovation centers which will be able to tap the market possible in the fishing industry, in the tourism industry, in the cashew nut industry, in the mining industry, or in the shipbuilding industry. We need community-driven innovation so that that can become a hub of innovation and local job creation. That is how you're going to be able to prevent this huge urban migration and the problems associated with that. And every one of our innovation has to be accompanied with sustainable development goals in mind. India has adopted, and the Honorable Prime Minister has espoused sustainable development goals in every one of his exhortations to the community, to the industry. And this is an opportunity for every startup to also ensure that their innovation becomes a sustainable innovation. So from my point of view, you are already on the way to setting up a world-class incubator fostering world-class startups. I would just end by looking at the word incubator once again a little more deeply. Everything is contained in that word. The I stands for fostering innovation, to create a new innovative India. That's what an incubator's function is all about. The N stands for nurturing innovation, nourishing it from its initial stages to a stage. That's why it's called an incubator. How do you nourish it? How do you encourage it? You're not here to judge the startup. You are there to help the startup become a world-class startup. That has to be kept in mind. You're not to be at the first chance telling the startup you have to go out. You have to tell them that the word fail is the first attempt in learning, not failure. And that the word fail means you have to re-engineer your product and you have to reiterate in order to get to the market, and so that it can be positioned successfully in the market. The C stands for collaboration. You are the facilitator for collaboration. You are bringing a network of partners together. You are bringing venture capitalists. You are making available resources through the network of Atal incubators. You are also enabling a peer network. If there is an agri-tech startup, or if there is a healthcare startup, or if there is a drone-related startup that Anna University has already been championing in drones and the space, those are, you can connect with other incubators, and you should enable the connection with other incubators and other startups. The U stands for utilization of your university resources. That is why many of our incubators are there in the universities. You have a powerful, rich, vibrant research R&D culture. You have resources available. How do you ensure that those resources are made available for the incubator? While the incubator has to be run independently, and we advocate that that's why it has a separate CEO. It cannot be just a professor who is also teaching as well as who is running the incubator. That will not do justice to the incubator. So you have a separate CEO, but how do you still access and utilize the university resources? The A stands for, you have to enable the ability of the young students transform itself into agility and into an action plan when they come into the startup world of the incubator. An action plan is validated by experts. So you have to make accessible through your alumni, through your network of companies who are supporting you and so on. How do you validate a good idea? How do you develop an action plan? An action plan for a startup is not just a technology product evolution. There has to be a business plan, and there has to be an enablement of HR, of strategy, of customer segmentation and funding and so on and so forth. Manufacturing support if the startup is in the manufacturing world. So you are, one of the very important thing is to ensure that there is an action plan not only for the incubator but also for the startup. And that is why we have created dashboards for you to be able to use real-time dynamic dashboards, so that on a balanced scorecard basis, so that you can use them and you can make your incubator successful. Measure the progress of your incubator by the progress of your startups. How many startups you have inducted? Our expectation is that every world-class incubator should have at least 25 to 30 world-class startups within your incubator, because you are having such a big base of university access, resource access, as well as students. So we want 25 to 30 world-class startups every 2 years to spring from your incubator. The B stands for business plan. You have to ensure that your startups not only come up with an innovation, but they are able to succeed in business. And that's a different ball game altogether. How do you ensure that their business strategies are validated? How do you enable that validation? How do you help them in developing a business strategy? Many times young startups are very passionate, dynamically committed individuals, but they don't have the necessary team. So the next thing is, how do you as a team work with the startup? You are not just a storehouse, or you are not just a place where people are renting some property and they are coming to work and you are not involved in that. That will not help the incubator to succeed. You need to ensure great teamwork, and teamwork between the incubator, between the university, and between the startup. When you approach it as a team, the success of the startup and the success of the incubator is assured. And the O stands for opportunity, opening up the opportunities to the startup. So outreach, how do you open it up? Only when you have great outreach events from your incubator, where not only are you enabling VCs from all over the country and the part of your region to know what is happening in your incubator, to see the power of their startups. You have to organize outreach events, and today with virtual events being possible, with digital transformations being possible, all of this can happen. And finally, you are responsible for creating a robust ecosystem of innovation in and around the community, not just in your universities. Please do not restrict your incubator to sponsoring and spawning innovation only from the universities. Remember, there are many students who have graduated from your universities and who have been looking for such an incubator to give their ideas, imagination, fruition through an innovation and through a startup. So that outreach is very important, and you have to constantly ensure that you provide a robust ecosystem of innovation and entrepreneurship. Atmanirbhar Bharat will succeed when we have world-class incubators with world-class startups creating national job creators at an unprecedented level. The COVID-19 has revealed the fragilities of not being able to address major problems that we have lived without understanding how they can impact. A simple virus has disrupted supply chains across the world. It has created national lockdowns. It has brought grievous loss of both lives as well as livelihoods. Unless India attacks these from the forefront, leveraging innovation, leveraging entrepreneurship, leveraging world-class incubators which are being set up like in your university, we will not succeed as a nation. But I am confident, as Sri Abdul Kalam, the president, honorable president of, a former president of India, and the missile scientist of India said, dream big and you'll achieve great things. Dream small and we'll be limited by our own dreams. And as the great Swami Vivekananda said, if you can believe in 1,000 gods and goddesses, but not have belief in yourself, you're doomed. So with great belief in oneself, aspiring for the largest aspiration that you are capable of dreaming about, I am hoping and I am sure that the Anna University will help the realization of the dreams and the confidence of the youth of our nation into a nation of world-class job creators, into a nation which is one of the most innovative nations in the world. Thank you for the opportunity you have given me to be able to participate in the inauguration of your esteemed incubation center.